Aha. Número tres, to complete a grant application based on the Arts Collab framework developed for the San Francisco Arts Commission, California Arts Council, and the Department of Cultural Affairs of Los Angeles for their individual grants. And then lastly, the materials developed during this process will become the baseline for artists to apply for grants, residencies, fellowships, and sponsorships in the future. Today's goals, this is what's going to happen right now. Funding, we're gonna learn about the funding ecosystem in the arts, why we are here. We're gonna learn an exercise, lift the fog, how to read grants applications, including experience and expectations, tips. We're gonna start working on our framework that we are, developing for you guys, creating a Juicebox. And we're gonna have a reminder about joining us on Google Classroom. But for right now, let's talk about the funding ecosystem in the arts. This is very important because you cannot, it would be incomplete if we learn how to write a grant and how to, submit a grant if we don't understand first and foremost, why are we writing a grant, right? Why are we in this stage of society where the best way to get funding for arts and culture is through writing a grant, competing with many people, maybe getting the grant, maybe not getting the grant, and continuing with this this way of making art and funding arts and culture. One of our mentors in the emerging arts professionals used to say that in many ways the arts and culture are still in the replicating the same systems that feudalism would replicate, because if you don't have a Patreon, if you don't have like a rich family that is, or a rich market, a rich audience that is paying for your practice, it's going to be very difficult for you to develop any sort of creation. So to that, it is important that we are aware of the different ramifications and the different ways in which we can address this issue, particularly here in the United States, because and Victoria will know about this. There will be differences between the funding ecosystem in Mexico, for example, but this is how it works here in the United States. And here we go. The first thing that we need to understand is that we live under this political ideology that is called neoliberalism. This is a political philosophy that started developing during the 80s and really became mainstream and onto power in the 90s. Neoliberalism is a premise, or has a series of premises that can be summarized in the fact that, or the belief that the least amount of government is the best amount of government, right? In the name of neoliberalism, a lot of governments around the world, most governments around the world, have been cutting down costs from social services, particularly education, health, and of course, arts and culture. So the way that this works in the United States particularly is, they pass a bill and they say, oh, you know what, we're gonna cut taxes on the corporations, on Amazon. Doesn't matter that they made $1 trillion last year, but we're gonna cut taxes on you guys as long as you invest part of that money in education, in health, and in arts and culture. Why? Because it is believed that private enterprise is more efficient than the government, right? So an organization like Ford says, oh, all right, so I'm getting a $5 million tax cut. I'm not gonna have to pay $5 million of these taxes. I just have to invest a part of that money into the arts and culture. So they go ahead and they create Ford Foundation, right? Coca-Cola Foundation, uh, Bank of America Foundation, Wells Fargo Foundation. All of these corporations now have their own foundations that where they invest all of these taxes that they are, you know, they're not officially paying to the government, and then they become givers of funds for, you know, these particular kinds of projects. So uh, ultimately, when we are going to apply for a grant, we need to understand that we are competing. Okay, this is almost like a job opening that we are competing to get, that we're trying to get. And as I was telling you, if we understand that the in this same logic, the model that works is who is going to be more efficient in accomplishing the goals of my foundation, which artist is going to be more effective in delivering results, in achieving the goals, reaching KPIs. It's very famous words, KPIs, key performance index. It's basically how good, you know, these particular parts of the goals are being met, are being achieved. Now, it is important that I take a pause here and tell you something that is, you know, really just honesty. The revolution is not going to be sponsored by a grant, right? The revolution is not going to have a 501c3. It's not going to come through a nonprofit. The reason that we are doing this is because, yes, we need to make our practices sustainable. However, it doesn't mean that they will necessarily get us to where we want to go as a society. There's a lot more work that needs to be done, including, you know, political reforms that are beyond our control. And at the same time, as artists, we control the narrative, right? As artists, we have the superpower of presenting powerful ideas out into the world to convince people, you know, that there are other ways of living, that there are other ways of relating to one another, that there are other ways to build community. So, you know, a lot of times this particular part of the grant writing process becomes very frustrating for artists, because we understand that, you know, we don't want to talk this language. We don't want to, you know, sound like a corporation as we're writing about our art and our practices. And I totally understand that, right? However, it is important to say this: before we can get to a place where we can organize and collectivize and do a different way of living, a different way of political organizing, we need to understand that we need to get resources, right? We need to harness as much resources as we can, not only for ourselves, but for our communities and the people that we are collaborating with. So there is, you know, so there is that important part, that is structure of like, oh, but, you know, in order to appeal to a foundation, we need to talk a certain way. Yes and no. You know, it is true that you have to utilize part of the language, part of the wording that they're using in their grant, but it is also very, very true that the content of your grant needs to be authentic to yourself, right? It needs to say what you're trying to say, and yes, we will find a way to speak, you know, to be clear. That's more than anything, right? We're gonna have different types of audiences, and we're gonna develop the ability to be clear for all of them. Now, what are some of these audiences that are going to be reading our grants? We have, for example, government institutions. Good examples of these are the California Arts Council, which is a state institution, the equivalent of the Secretary of Culture of the state. So they organize and coordinate in spaces all across California. On the other side, we have national organizations like the National Endowment for the Arts. This particular one is attached to, you know, the executive branch of power, right? Um, Important to mention here that, of course, they are the biggest institution. Through them, a lot of the government funding, you know, is you know, so the federal government gives the money for culture to the National Endowment for the Arts, and the National Endowment for the Arts will then break it for the states. Um, when COVID started, they decided that they were only going to support organizations and institutions that they had funded before. You know, this is a wink to, oh, if you haven't been in our list for the longest time, for many, many years, you're not going to get any of our money. Wink. You know, when they say that, it's clear to understand which institutions they will be supporting, right? The ballet, the symphony, which, yes, of course, it's important that they get funding, but at the same time, only those two institutions are only to those two institutions. The government dedicates 80% of the budget only to those two institutions. You know, so that you have a clear idea of where is this money going, where are they deciding to invest. And finally, we have local organizations like the San Francisco Arts Commission. Of course, they are a much more like audience center organization, because, you know, they can localize and focalize their efforts. Um, Besides government institutions, we also have foundations. As I was telling you, the Best Buy Foundation. We have, what other one is good? Hewlett Packard Foundation is really, really good, or really, you know, famous in you know, giving funds. We also have organizations and non-profits. In this case, Arts Collab, you know, it can be considered an organization. We're not yet a non-profit, but we have important non-profits like NALAC, the National Association for Latin American Communities. We have Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. We have the SF MoMA. We have all of these organizations that are also getting money and re-granting it. So at times we're going to have to apply directly with these organizations. And finally, we have individual donors, right? There's a lot of rich people that invest in arts and culture, right? They donate. Uh, I think that we all have a certain part of our taxes that we can, you know, make a donation in the arts and culture, and at the end of the, you know, exercise, we can just go and when we make our taxes, we can say, hey, I gave $1,000 to, you know, the Mission Cultural Center, and those $1,000 you will officially not have to pay it as part of your taxes. So I don't have a lot of clarity around this, but I am getting more and more trained on it, because it would be important for us to communicate to you know, just people in the community, like, hey, you know, you have this window of money that you can donate directly to an arts and culture institution of your choosing, so we can redirect those funds to, you know, the institutions that are serving our community, and that would be so important. The next part is, what are the sources of funding? And before I get into this, the reason that we're mentioning this is because a key component, very important part, when they put out a call to artists for a grant, what they say is anyone can get this grant. Anyone, not everyone, right? And that is, there's a big anyone can get it. This is just to say the grants model is broken, basically. And I'm sorry that, you know, we're having a class around grant writing, and I have to tell you this, right? This has been a big learning for us, to see that there are grants that are perfectly well written, that have a really strong background in research, in, you know, clarity about how they're serving their community. All of these things are in line, But then you submit your grant, and some of these institutions receive 100 grants, say. This is a very clear experience that we had in Cohort 5. The Center for Cultural Innovation received 106 grant applications, and they only had 8 grants to give away, right? What does it mean? Well, it means that, 8 people are going to get their grant, but it doesn't mean that only 8 people, that only 8 of those projects are deserving of funding, and this is very, very important, because I have seen people who are like, oh, you know what, I didn't get my first grant. It means that my project is not worth it, right? It means that my project is not going to get funding, and it's easy, it's understandable, this frustration. I really understand it, but at the same time, it is important to say that this is a numbers game. Numero uno, this is a numbers game. The more grants you apply for, the more chances you're gonna have to get this grant, number one. Number two, the more you apply, the better your information is going to become. The more polished, the more clear, the more direct, and the better you're going to understand your project, and you're going to be able to pitch it, not only for a grant, but also for other forms of or other sources of funding. And this is where I want to get to. Yes, on the one hand, we have grants, fellowships, residencies, but also we have commercial funds, and these are sponsors. A lot of times it's easier to convey your goals and your impact to someone that is not comparing you to another 100 candidates, right? We have had experiences in the past where at the same time we are applying for a grant and looking for sponsors. In 2019, I produced a festival called La Diaspora Festival, and we're together with another 20 artists in the community. We gathered funds to go to Mexico. Actually, Victoria was part of that festival. It was the first time that we collaborated together, and it was an amazing adventure. But how we sourced that festival was through one grant of $5,000. It was through getting around 10 sponsors. All together with the sponsors, we raised around $7,000. We held a series of events, and we sold, the tickets for those events. And with that, we raised around another $6,000 to $7,000. And altogether, we gathered $20,000. Now, it would have been impossible for us to get $20,000 in grants alone, or in sponsors alone, or in ticket sales alone. But what we did is basically, we just gathered all of these different resources, and we made it happen. Another good example of this is a community fund, crowdfunding programs, or individual donor programs. Right now, there's a lot of opportunity in the Patreon, in the Patreon area, or in the Patreon sphere. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this platform called Patreon. This works particularly good for content creators, where you commit certain amount of people, your dedicated audience. You commit them to donate every time that you drop something new, whether it is a scene, or a song, or a meme, I don't know, merchandise even. And so every time that you're putting out new work, you get more money from your patrons. So and finally, we have sales. We have direct sales. So a lot of times we can just produce merch. We can, find spaces where we can sell this merch. We can distribute this merch through, stores, apparel stores, things like that. And ultimately, you can, get your money, basically. And I think we're gonna make a room here for hear a bit of questions from you. I would love to hear what you guys think about this. But I think that ultimately the thing that I want to convey to you guys is there are so many different ways of funding and sourcing your project that, we should not get stuck in just one of them. In this time together, we are going to develop a clear pitch to present to, funders through grants, sponsorships, crowdfunding. The important part is that you are so clear in your project that you can open a window for people to take a look inside, look at what you are doing, and they know how to support you, right? There's so many people that wants to support you, that wants to support your vision, that wants to support your effort. We only need to empower them, to give them the tools to do that, right? To put money in your hands, to put connections in your hands, to offer you spaces, materials, contacts, whatever it is. We just need to be very, very, very clear about what it is that we are doing and how can other people source that, right? Do you guys have any questions? What is coming up for you as I'm telling you all of these things?
Could I share a thought?
Please, JT.
I just wanted to appreciate this presentation because I think it was just well put and prompt, and I think I love that you started with the context of neoliberalism. I really appreciate that because a lot of my experience has been working in nonprofits, and I worked in one nonprofit in particular that recognizes that. And that also provided some good framework, but most nonprofits that I've worked with have essentially denied it. And I think it's important for us to understand, what exactly what you said, and kind of like know that like we all, like pretty much all of us, like intend to be part of change, and nonprofits or grants can be a way to sustain ourselves, but
And he left.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So how do I know, like, I don't know how to verbalize this, but I am currently an artist who mostly makes money by doing commissions, like put things online through Instagram or my website, and then I sell. How do I pitch that as a project, that, betters people's lives? Like if I'm just making objects, usable objects, and, the kind of community engagement I have through art is through, a nonprofit, then how do I market myself? That's kind of what I'm wondering. What kind of grants do I apply for as a commissioned artist?
Thank you. Therese, you wanna share something?
Yeah, if you wanna answer that, you can. I also have a take on it as well.
No, please go ahead.
So if you just turn on the TV, every person is saying why you could participate in what it is that they are offering, and you have an authentic voice of why people should participate. Just in what I know, it could be, support. Here's an opportunity to support a BIPOC artist who has lots of experience crafting ceramics for fine dining and for upscale restaurants. Bring the upscale to your home for a fraction of the price.
Yes.
And so it could be that's one angle, just as far as just like it, not necessarily the price point, so to speak, but just the value that you bring, Tasha, as Tasha. So that's what you're pitching, and also you can bring statistics of like there may not be enough Tashas in the space, and here's an opportunity to create more, revenue streams for Tasha. And then
Tashas.
you could argue not in the sense of argue, but you can make a case that corporate dishes take up most of the space, and here's an opportunity to support local folks, or target funded things that are funded by the city, where they need to purchase their stuff from local people. So you can go with the local, you can go with the new small business, female business, queer business, BIPOC. Like, there's lots of spaces that you are wanted in that want to support you. So it's finding those spaces and writing grants for those spaces that are looking for to fund you. I would say 80% of the grants you should be applying for should be ones that folks are looking to fund you. And then there could be 20% wild card, but you want to this is for everyone. You want to infuse your energy where it's most useful, and we're going to be supporting you in doing that. Arturo, would you like to add anything? And I'm also passing the baton back to you.
Thank you. Yes, no, this is very well said. And there is a concept that we're going to learn next week that is cultural equity. And cultural equity just speaks about why your voice is important, why your voice matters. And the truth is that the systems that we live under were created and developed without having our needs, our dignity, in account, without taking it in account. And basically, at this point in time, we are trying to level the field, the economic field, the social field, the political field. So it is important that a person like you has space, right? That a person like us doing the work that we're doing, that we have the resources to elevate, the stories that have never been told, that have never, been at the center. Because we understand that when they silence one of us, we all lose something. We're all missing something. So it's ultimately about understanding why your voice, your particular voice, is important, and what is this giving to the people in general. Just the last thing before I close that is, can you imagine if people didn't have music, if people didn't have memes during COVID, during quarantine, right? If people didn't have all of these things that us, the artists, were creating so that people wouldn't lose their mind. Jen, who was part of the cohort 7, she was here last week actually, talking about her practice. Her project is an art installation for people to come and get this, get into the space, and they get wrapped in this snake-like installation that she's creating actually. And the cultural equity portion for her project was about touch, right? During the time of social distancing, people people started feeling, touching each other, hugging each other, doing all of these things, which has resulted in increase of depression, anxiety, stress, all of these things. Therefore, her installation would be become a safe space where people could come and be felt wrapped around, and be very ceremonial, and be very like all of these elements. So it really had an impact on the mental health of people, on the social fabric of our communities, all of these things. And so we're going to get deeper and deeper into how to present your idea and your vision, but just believe that the reason that you have been working and developing and investing yourself in your art and your practice has ultimately a social and a political component that we need to uncover and present. Does that make sense? Excellent. Any last question? All right. I think we're gonna move forward to the next part, correct, Therese?
Yes.
Orale, passing the baton to you, my friend.
All right. I just want to say thank you so much, Arturo. Every time you do that, this is the 9th time, maybe 10th time I've heard you say it. I get something every time. So thank you for just really breaking it down and also having some compassion for, you know, the possibilities, even though the system is it's very much so jacked up. You know, we wouldn't be here if we didn't believe that there are opportunities and space for us to take up. Tabitha, did you have a question?
Not a question, more so a comment. I want to thank you because part of the reason that gave me the courage to come to this group is when you said, I was telling you, I was like, I just want to, you were asking me what kind of projects you do, kind of, and like we're getting into some details. And then I would just kind of say, I just want to get paid for doing me. I'm doing good. And I want to just get paid for doing it. And you was like, I said, but that sounds lame. And you was like, well, why not? Well, why can't you? What if it was really possible? You know, and it just really put some fire inside of me that I did not believe. I had lost that fire. I had lost that belief that it was possible. So that's why we're here. That's why I'm here. So I can start exploring those possibilities. And I'm thankful to you, Teresa, for just kind of spitting that fire into me at that moment. That's all.
Well, it's my pleasure to just point out when you're on fire.
And also,
it's essentially you're the one bringing the fire. I'm just pointing it out, like,
and also too, the authenticity part. You guys made me feel like I'm gonna be like a lot of times. What I've heard with grant writing and things is that the organization starts to cater to the grants instead of who they are. And what I really appreciate about this process is that you guys are saying, hey, like if we don't get it the first time, don't change who you are, but just learn how to articulate it better. You know? And so I'm really just excited about what's happening. That's all. I just wanted to say that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the recognizing our contribution. Arturo, can you hit me with the slides? And folks, you're gonna need 2 pieces of paper. And JT, thank you so much for your sentiment, and please pay it forward to other folks now that you know, please share it with others. Okay, so I am inviting everyone to go off screen and just kind of lean into this because it's going to be a little bit of a journey that I'm encouraging you to go on. So just make sure that you've got your paper. And I see Laz is coming back into the room. So Laz, what we're doing right now is we are off screen, and I'm encouraging folks to grab 2 pieces of paper and a pen because we're going to be doing some we're going to be creating some opportunities to lift some fog in our life. Okay, so lifting the fog is to have clarity in your life. You must first see where clarity has been lacking. It's a challenge to be clear, to wake up, become conscious, and stop bumping into life. When we wake up, we see what is really important and valuable to us. We can see the path that has been waiting for us all along. We begin to live the life we were meant to live. Your fog may be a vague sense of frustration, resignation, or cynicism when it comes to your important dreams. You're frustrated because you don't think you have the time, the money, the imagination, or physical vitality to tackle them. You're resigned to putting them off until lifestyles are down and you're under less stress. Or you have cynically given up on even dreaming the dreams that thrills your heart. You're convinced that it's for other people, not for you. So right now, I would love for you to just take a sheet of paper and just take this opportunity to write, draw, and doodle a goal or dream you have put aside. And Arturo, I know you're kind of helping me, but I would love for you to do this too. So yeah, just take a sheet of paper, write and draw, and doodle a goal or dream you've put aside. And without really putting a lot of extra into it, just list all the reasons, real or imagined, you put it off. And I would love for you to just keep writing, drawing, or doodling until the time is up. You have 1 minute. All right. And now you are going to just take a minute with that. And Arturo, if you don't mind advancing the slide. You're going to take a second sheet of paper and dig a little bit deeper with how you write, draw, doodle a goal or dream you've put aside. List all the reasons, real or imagined, that you've put it off. And I would love for you to keep writing, drawing, and doodling until the time is up. You have 2 minutes. Okay, Arturo, next slide, please. All right. Take that same sheet of paper or another sheet of paper and keep digging. Have you found a root? write, draw, and doodle down a goal or a dream you've put aside. And keep writing and drawing and doodling until the time is up. You have 3 minutes. All right, you've got about 50, 48, 47, 46 seconds to wrap this up. And as you're doing this, I invite you to just allow any tension in your body to just kind of just loosen up a little bit. And just breathe and support yourself in just lifting the fog. Now, Trudeau, if you would be so kind as to go to the next slide. So now that you are starting to see the fog, I would like for you to, if you need to flip the sheet over, flip it over, grab another sheet of paper, but fold it in half. On one side, write all the reoccurring themes in words or phrases under that heading. And then once you have that list, take a look at that list on the left and list everything you've told yourself about why these reasons make sense. An example would be, I want to go to the beach, but I don't go to the beach because it's 45 minutes away and I don't have a car and I don't know what the weather's going to be. How I made the reasons make sense? You need a car to go to the beach. I need to know what the weather is. I don't have 45 minutes to be on the bus. I don't have an extra 45 minutes in my week. And so now, without any judgment or being a mechanic, AAA mechanic that's pulled over the side and says, here's your situation. Just as your own individual person who has this, your own hopes and dreams and goals to make a difference, see what connections there might be and why you decide in this way. And there's no judgment here. It's just an opportunity for you to look and see how you rationalize not doing what it is that you want to do. And rationalizing it is not a bad thing. It's just where you're at. And so if I dismantle my reasoning behind why I don't go to the beach, if I really want to go to the beach, I'll calendar it. I'll navigate it. And so this is just the beginning of looking at, like, what do you see when you lift the fog? And so you have another 2 minutes to just sit with what you're seeing. What kind of connections are you making between both sides? Welcome, Kaylee. You'll be able to do this exercise by watching the slides, and if not, or if you want to do it sooner, we can do it together in one of our coaching sessions. And so if you want to start wrapping that observation up, we're going to put you in breakout rooms. And Kayla, you can hang here with us, or you can go see what people got out of the experiment, or not the experiment, but the exercise. I think, yeah, you can go and see what folks got out of the exercise. But we're going to drop you into breakout rooms, and you have about a minute each just to share like what that was like. And then we're going to come back into the main room and have just like a couple people share what it was like. So our tour will be dropping you all into breakout rooms. You'll have a minute to share, and then we'll come back and have two people share with the bigger group. Thank you so much for being open to lifting the fog.
Hey, Therese.
Hi.
Hey, I'm on my phone right now. I'm guessing you're sending breakout room. Oh, there it is. Sometimes it's hard to see it. Thank you. I see it now.
Asha, do you have you have to click it so that you can go to your breakout room?
Who, me?
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta click. You have to join the room.
Where is the room?
There will be a button that comes up for you. No.
Okay.
Like a
Join
little,
breakout
like
room.
they're
Here it
taking
is.
you to breakout room, something. There you go. Nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. Okay.
How are you doing? So we're going to have time for a couple of folks to share as folks are coming back here. You can also share in the chat what the experience was like for you.
Hey, Therese, can you repeat that? Because I completely missed that.
Sure. So if you want to drop in the chat, what you saw going through that experiment, what did you see the connection was in doing that exercise? Anybody care to share what it was like to make that connection?
Yeah, I'd be down to go ahead and share
Thank you.
mine. So yeah, the way I interpreted like the exercise was kind of like when you said to like dig deeper and stuff. And then I was like, why do I want this? Or like, why do I want to do like music? Or why do I want to like pursue the arts and everything? And when like as we were like going through the different sessions of okay, we're gonna go deeper and stuff. Not like the limiting like beliefs about I need to like focus on like something that is more like sustainable or like making money. And then I realized that like these are things that I heard in childhood, and it's still like present like now in my like as I'm older. So yeah, just like recognizing that I'm like, oh, that's where that thought is coming from. So yeah, I just wanted to like share that that's what I got from the exercise. I'm like, oh, that's where it came from. It's not like necessarily like my like voice. It's this voice that I heard from someone else that I don't necessarily like agree with now, but that's where it's like coming from. So yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
Yeah, sure, I can go. Oh, sorry, let me turn my video on. So one of the things we talked about was just having to work and survive and how, that just kind of impedes you from feeling creative at all because you're so tired at the end of the day, or you're so stressed out about trying to make ends meet, especially in the Bay Area. It can be kind of a nightmare sometimes. And when you're in survival mode, it's like, are you really capable of creativity? But it's like a cycle. Like you just you're just on the hamster wheel all the time, just trying to live. And I was saying that I liked one of the things I read in some of the onboarding kind of paperwork that you guys gave us about, living a dignified life. And we were talking about how, most of the artists that we read about, currently they were destitute a good portion of their adult lives. And it's like, I don't know if that the thought of having to live like that is what's kind of kept me from just jumping in and feeling okay with solely supporting myself through, my creative work. Or yeah, I guess that's it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for participating in that exercise. It's something that you can do when you are wanting to get out of your way. It's like not criticizing, it's just literally coughing up what are the reasons why you're not doing what you want to be doing and why it makes sense. And then when you just make the connections, you can decide if you want to stay in that narrative or if you want to do something different. 30-second example would be, I was doing my coaching program and my mentor was not moving me forward. And I had all these stories about why I should be moving forward. And then I did the lifting of the fog exercise and realized all he was asking me to do was to complete the work and be ready for the next level. And as soon as I made that connection, I invested in completing the work and being ready for the next levels, and boom, everything moved. But I had to get out of my way of, I should be advancing just because I want to be advancing. And I'm paying this money, but when I realized all he's asking me to do is to be able to advance to the next level by knowing the material, I was able to lift the fog without any stories. And you can find yourself saving energy when you're not trying to repair something that's in your past, when you're trying to get to your future. If you use that energy, if you use the energy that you're telling stories to, looking at like what small shifts you can make, you're going to increase your chances of bringing your goals into physical reality. So I am going to just say thank you so much for being open to lifting the fog. And we are going to be having some artist presentations. And Arturo is going to be setting up the slides for each artist. So I would love to welcome Norman to the spotlight. And after each artist presents, just, give them some snaps and some love and some fire in the chat, if you will.
Actually, can we start with someone else?
You have Era's stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Era, are you down with going first?
Yeah, I'm
Let's
cool with
do this. Beautiful.
All right. So, woo! For being
Let's
the first
go,
person to
Era.
present for the entire
Hey.
cohort.
Thanks, JT.
Bravo.
Okay.
And you have 4 minutes, and you'll hear a timer go off in the back and just start wrapping up.
Okay, I'll try to finish it in 2. It won't take too long. So my
Right,
name.
all is well. Ready, set, go.
All right, so my name is Era Kian. I use the pronouns she, they, and my art practices are primarily illustration, usually digital art, trying to venture more into storytelling, and just fairly recently, the last year or so, doing abolitionist art activism. I'm based in Tonga land or in Los Angeles. I have Vietnamese and Chinese heritage. And a large part of, I think my art lens was motivated by the organizing done in San Francisco when I used to live there. I founded an art activism group called CCSF Collective, and we focus on addressing the austerity cuts or the cuts to public education where, there's class cuts, people are getting laid off, and it's just shrinking public education, leading to people that are the most in need. They don't have the resources, which is so unfortunate. And then once everything happened with all the George Floyd protests, we were helping impacted families and became an abolitionist group. And right now I organize with the mutual aid group Los Angeles Community Fridges, which focuses on providing free food in a decentralized way to people in LA. And then next slide. Yeah, so current projects, I sort of a little bit struggled with this. I was talking to Maheli about that, but I joined this cohort because I want to do an illustration book. I was in different experiences where I recognized storytelling really as a vehicle to build relationships. And that's what I really want to focus on after doing abolitionist organizing. And thanks, Tabitha, for liking the visual. I'm doing some abolitionist digital art for LA Community Fridges. One of the reasons why I joined this mutual aid group was because they refused to work with any law enforcement, any government entity too. So I appreciate, like JT, the emphasis on understanding the neoliberalism and all the nonprofit work. Yeah, and then I'm trying to work with a buddy of mine in Abolitionist Disability Justice Collective on addressing COVID alongside with other pandemics. And that's something that I sort of organized with in a different group that I left because there's just differences of opinion. So yeah, a lot of art and activism work. And then next slide. And how to support me, very basic things. If you want to stay connected, I have an art Instagram. And then what matters the most to me is authentic, direct, and honest feedback and communications. Sharing resources will be dope as well. What I could contribute is honest, direct, authentic communications, feedback while being affirming. And because then I just have a background on trying to find resources and help other people I could try to look for resources for y'all if that's needed in SF and Bay Area, since I have more experience there. And collaborate on mutual aid work. I always wanted to see more mutual aid. And that's it.
Yes, woohoo!
Woo!
All right, you got some love in the chat, and y'all connect through the chat, and we'll have a little bit of time, hopefully at the end, where people can kind of chat. So Victoria, are you available to go next?
Yes, yes, I am.
All right. So before we move to Victoria, I would love to just everyone, if you can come off mute for a minute and give some love to Era for going first, and just for the amazing stuff that they're up to.
Yay! Awesome job.
Right on.
Thank you for the work you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Thank y'all. Next, por favor.
Yeah, that's my turn. Well, here we are. Well, my name is Victoria Gonzalez, pronounced she, her. I'm a visual artist and art creator, cultural producer, museographer, and everything that has to see with art or do with art, anything. Well, as an artist, my work, I work with different materials. I like to experiment, to put things that we are not used to see together, and mix kind of paintings, because my practice, my stronger practice is painting. And what I like to do is to call for a visual revolution through iconoclasm. You know, I want to destroy the image that has formed us, because I think there's a way to liberate us, and so we can be free and do whatever we want to do without nobody interfering in that. As a curator, my work is linked to my managers and research work. For me, the inclusion of all of those who come to observe art is important, and that they reach the aesthetic experience. That's like a term that we use here in Mexico to explain what happens when you see an artwork. I mean, a painting, a sculpture, a drawing, or engraving, or whatever you want to call art. And I have curated several individual and collective exhibitions, and I have participated as an artist also in different exhibitions. And as a cultural producer, I have organized several national and international events that are like festivals, art exhibitions, speakers, any kind of things, theater, cinema projections, anything that has to do with art. Concerts too, I have organized. And I've been working in several different spaces, like the gallery art of the University of Cultural Complex from La UAP. I've been in the UTLAB. There is another university that is important here in Puebla. Museum of Art of San Pedro. There is a contemporary museum art, and well, other spaces. I've been, for the last 5 years, maybe a little bit more, I've been working in a cultural producer that calls Casa Real de Artistas Mexicanos, and I also was a deputy director from a platform that calls Mujeres Creando, and that we are going to talk about that a little bit later. And I have founded La Catañera, that is another cultural producer, and I'm actually working as public relationships department in university called Bauhaus, that is a university of arts here in Puebla. And I'm working with Arturo as a cultural producer in La Diaspora. And can we change to the next slide? Okay, my current projects. Mujeres Creando, it is a multidisciplinary platform that can function as a space for dissemination, reflection, and creation for women who work in the world of art and who have Puebla City as a connecting axis. La Catañera is a cultural producer who proposed to dignify the culture of the barrio. I couldn't find the word to say that in English, but the barrio, through cultural events such as festival, concerts, book presentation, and a lot of them. And as a visual artist, and creating an installation pictorial installation, art installation. It is an art project where I plan to expand the painting outside the frame using art installation and performance as a structure the different architectural spaces that may exist to give them a new meaning and turn them into portals that lead us to other possibility of being, living, loving, and create. And the picture that you are watching is like an example of that. It's that was a room that I was all over painting, and I put other artworks over those walls and 3D objects to create this space that is like a whole painting.
Victoria?
Yes.
You have about 20 seconds to wrap it up.
Okay, can we, the next slide? How can I support my art practice? Sharing your artist, supporting in social media, proposing collaborations, share information about independence and institution art spaces, helping me to know the language of art in the United States, and how can I contribute to you, sharing my connections with the spaces and people here in Mexico, proposing collaborations to you, supporting in your social media, and making you a fora. Fora it's for your projects and art projects, cultural and art projects. And fora means forces, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats to anything that you do. So that's what I can do for you. And that will be it.
There you go. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Woo!
Woo!
Thank you so much for your offerings.
Very lovely.
And your contributions to both Mexico and San Francisco and beyond. Really appreciate it. So if everybody could just come off mute for a minute and give some snap and love and whatnot. Victoria, yeah.
Hey, Victoria.
Guys,
Amazing,
thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. Happy to be here with you.
Amazing. And with further ado, we are up to our Maestro Norman. You have 4 minutes. You're going to hear whoop when you have 4 minutes.
Is that the sound?
Yeah, that's the sound.
Oh my God, no.
Okay, I'm going. Good morning, everyone. My name is Norman Antoine Celaya, and I am a writer. Slide. It's me. It's my Twitter handle. Slide. I'm from San Francisco, born and raised here. I was the first person in, well, the first of my parents' kids born in the United States. They came from Nicaragua. I've been publishing stories in journals like Sisypha, New York Tyrant, Secpali 14 Hills when I was at San Francisco State, Apogee, among others. I've also published in Street Sheet at Tecolote and in a local anthology about San Francisco histories. In 2015, I was a All Stories, Ocho All Story finalist, which was validation for me. It was exciting. Folks like Tommy Orange and there came out of that contest. I've also had the opportunity to perform around the country as a member of Los Delicados, which is a poetry performance ensemble with my collaborators Darren De Leon and Paulus Flores. And we've gone all through California. We've been in other Chicago, Kansas, New York and Ports Cafe. I've also had the opportunity to act on stage and in small independent films. I got to go to the South by Southwest festival once, which was wonderful. And I actually spent some time, many years as a masked luchador, Super Pulga. Slide. Just some examples of some of the work. I was a featured speaker at a Latino Heritage Month at the University of Michigan. Also the Really Big Show. I've been curating shows from a lot of big part of my writing life. There's me up in the corner in the film Larrylandia, and that's me off of the top rope, about to put an end to Macho Sasquatcho. But more than anything, in spite of all these experiences, which have been a lot of fun and also very creative. Slide. I am a writer. There has been one thing I wanted to do since I was 15, and only one thing, and that has been to write. So after 25 years of writing, in 2017, I finally published my first book. Slide. Orlando and Other Stories. And there's a little blurb by our homeboy, Juan Felipe Herrera. Orlando was inspired by the massacre at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. I've been here all my life in the Mission, but I needed to connect to that community, because when I saw their names and I saw their faces, I said, that's me, right? In Lakesh, right, mi otro yo, that's me. And I couldn't let them go away. I couldn't let them fade. So I wrote this story and I really wanted to get it published. So I put together other smaller pieces, and I found a small press in Oakland, Pochino Press, and they put out the story. And after that, I did events and presentations. Slide. And the one thing I've done as a writer for more than 20 years, even in years I haven't written hardly anything, I've always been invited to Los Altos High School for the Writers Week to present to their freshman class, and especially to their Latino students. And here are some thank you letters. This is a young person who was also a special education student, and she enjoyed how I validated what I thought was art, right? And it's important, to believe in something that something is art, and that is great. Slide. Here's a young man who connected because he's also Nicaraguense. Not just is he Nicaraguense, but he's a relative of a big time Nicoya poet and writer back in Nicaragua. So finding those connections, right? And that's another thing I want to do in my writing. Slide. This young person wrote to me that I inspired her to be, you inspired me to be myself instead of trying to fit in with all the white kids here, changing my look and clothes, hiding where I come from. You helped me embrace that little Hayward girl instead of the fake whitewashed person I was. I really want to start writing about how a little ghetto girl like me goes to school with people that are nothing like me, how I made friends and stuff like that. Like, it's amazing to get these responses from these young people. And that's part of the dream I've had for myself as a writer, to go out and to share and read and to lecture and make connections. Slide. And this other person, young person, also read a thank you and wrote, actually can't, because I really like the way you write it cholo like, which is hella funny but chill. I also like how you're like Latino, like a lot of it, and a writer, which is pretty amazing. Since I don't know a lot of Latino writers who have gotten as far as you have. That's just inspiring, man. They're telling me, you know, what taking out of my book, and I'm getting so much more from them. So this is all I want to do is write. Slide. My current projects is I'm working on the 4th revision of a debut novel. The working title is Like I'm Always Leaving. And I got a book coming out, Gentes Folks. So I've been working hard and setting up radio interviews, events, sharing, just promoting it. Slide. And how you could help support my work. Come to the event on July 30th, next Saturday, at Medicine for Nightmares. Share the event with people. Go to Black Freighter Press and order the book online. Go ahead and buy the first book, Orlando, Pacino Press, and support small presses and other artists in the meantime. And what I can offer this group. I'm going to take something I got from my partner JT, who talked about being a fan of other people's work. So in this space, I have the opportunity to appreciate the breadth and myriad disciplines that other people are working in, and just sit back and appreciate. Not to solely focus on how much I want to produce, but also enjoy what is around me and available to me, and just be a fan of different disciplines and different artworks. Thank you.
Thank you. Woo!
Wow.
Amazing. Can we give some fire and love to Norman and everybody?
Yay.
Woo!
That's right. That's right.
So, I want to thank everyone for joining the Google Classroom. There's just a small handful of y'all that still need to join. Artudo's going to drop the link in the chat. And also a question just to kind of get the party started. If you could go to Google Group and leave, please share a little bit about your practice and something people wouldn't know about you just by looking at you. Tabitha has said hello in the group, and Tasha has started utilizing the group because it's also something where you can put announcements about what you're up to. Tasha has some offerings that are in the Google Classroom for some free Sunday and other offerings at her ceramics spot. So to get more information about that, please go to the Google Classroom and make your presence known, and please share a little bit about your art practice and something people wouldn't know about you just by looking at you in the Google group. And it's definitely a place to connect and network and promote what you're up to in the chat space. And that's where you're going to want to be looking for the post-game notes. And yeah, that's what time it is.
What are the post-game notes, Therese?
That is a good question. The post-game notes are what you received in your inbox last week, which is it'll be a recording of the session, a copy of the slides and the opening circle, and links to reference material and homework. And so what will happen is Arturo, I will send a note saying, maybe a quote saying, you can do it this week. Check out the post-game notes in the classroom. And then you'll go to the classroom and simply go to classwork and click on the cohort independent study and handouts. And then you click on the document and you will see everything we've done so far. And then it'll say week 1 and we'll post the stuff for week 1. And then it'll be all of the weeks will be here. And as you scroll through, you'll have one long document that you can reference beyond this classroom that has everything that we talk about. Any questions about the Google Classroom, y'all?
Oh, I think the link is broken. Hold on.
Yeah, the link
Can you
isn't working for me.
Can you resend that link, Therese?
Yeah. Aye. 1 minute, please. So everyone who has joined the cohort classroom, copy link. It's not what I want to do. Okay, I will resend the link to the classroom. And Arturo will post it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll keep going, but the link will be put in the chat.
Why don't we take a break?
A 3-minute bio break?
Yeah, let's take a 3-minute bio break. We're gonna play some music. When the music stops, is your sign to come back. We're gonna close our session strong, taking the first steps to address your grant application. So take a break. We'll be right back. Thank you.
And I don't think anybody needs that code because everybody is in the room except for one person. So that code that you put in is, if you haven't, I don't think anybody needs that code.
Oh, I got somebody asking for the code.
Okay.
That's why. Yeah. So yeah, a couple of important things, guys. The first one is we would like to support you in setting the arena. So we don't have time to check in with you about, how are you doing, if you were able to talk to your support buddy, how is this process going. We know that there's a couple of people that have been enjoying so much to connect with, their support buddies and just really having a sounding board, right? Having a person that is there to listen to you and to potentially, bounce some ideas from or with. And so, one of the things that I would love to do is to come in this upcoming week, to come into one of the times that you guys are setting the arena so that we can do it together. And I can, answer any questions that you might have in regards to what does it mean to dismantle a structure of knowing, or what does it mean to be a demand for coaching? All of these things. Of course, every one of these questions has a meaning behind it. You already broke it down last week, but I'm happy to come back to come and in person and almost individually do that with you, so that so we can make room for ease. That is numero uno. Numero dos, we shared with you an important video in last week's post-game notes, which is again this letter that we put together. Is like a newsletter for you. In this newsletter, we included this video called The Playing Field. And the playing field is a very, very, very important tool as we embark on just basically reframing our relationship with money, reframing our relationship with time, with creativity, with social relationships, all of these things. So if you haven't not watched it, please do this week. It's really, really important that you have this notion, because we are building our practice based on this understanding that there's a playing field, whatever that means. You will see it if you go to the video. And the final thing that I want to share with you real quick is, as you come in to the Google Classroom, you will see that you can announce things to your class, as Tasha did here. This is really cool. It's a really nice invitation. And, this is a good place for you to include, like, oh, I have this event happening. This is, something that I want to invite people. So Norman, for example, I invite you to come here and share the information about the event that you have happening at Medicine for Nightmares. This is the first time that we're using the Google Classroom, but we believe that this is going to be a good place where we can just leave all of your, homework, content, etc., and then you can just come here, take a look at, all of these things. You should watch this. Pew, 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 pew. The orientation. This is our session video, our slides, our opening circle with meeting cohort 6, and your homework, right? This is your homework. Choose one of the following questions to write about. Pew. And then this is the playing field, right? This is the tool that I've been mentioning. Your calendar. You will have very specific instructions here. And, we really do our best to share with you, to communicate with you through different channels and have all of this information available. So please come to the Google Classroom. Everything is going to be living here. And with that, we go to our last portion of today, which is pooling your grants. What does that mean? The first thing that we have to do when we are embarking on filling a grant, completing a grant application, is we need to go look at the grant, right? Generally speaking, you will have organizations and institutions like the San Francisco Arts Commission. I'm utilizing, for this example today, I'm utilizing the guidelines of the San Francisco Arts Commission for individual artists, mostly because it's a very comprehensive grant application, number one. Number two, because we have been doing this a number of times, and because we believe that it really, asks for a lot of information. But once you answer all of this information, you will have all of these materials to apply for, for other grants. So, generally speaking, these organizations, these foundations are going to put out their call to artists. San Francisco Artist Grant. So you come to the website, oh, this is just to be very clear, this is not currently open, but I know for a fact that a number of you are going to be applying for this grant in November and December of this year. So we're just utilizing the guidelines that they have, okay? So we start reading. This is the program, San Francisco Artist Grant. For any questions about the San Francisco Artist Grant, contact program officer Ann Tricky. Now, Ann Tricky is a good acquaintance of ours, and it really helps when you have any questions, when you have anything that is unclear, to just remember this name, this email, and this phone number. Now, let me say this very specific and very, it's very, very important. These folks, Ann Tricky is she works for the San Francisco Arts Commission. She works for us, the artists living in San Francisco. So when you need support, do not feel bad, do not hesitate to reach out and ask questions. Actually, building rapport with the people who works in these institutions is one of the key components of applying for grants. There's nothing wrong with, hey, Anne, I have a question about this specific part of it. It doesn't mean that she's going to be there like answering all of the questions all the time, but for the most part, I can tell you that these program officers are very willing and open to answer these questions and these calls. You will have, particularly for San Francisco, you can have translation options. Una traducción de esta solicitud está disponible, right? So there's a translation available in Spanish. We have Chinese here, and I believe we have Filipino here, Elizabeth and JT can correct me if I'm wrong. And then you will have the guidelines, right? The guidelines and the instructions. For this particular portion, we're just going to utilize the guidelines. We click here, and this is what comes up. Pew! San Francisco Artist Grant Guidelines. Okay? All the information that we need is going to be in a document like this, the guidelines. Now, the guidelines, this is the institutional document. For us to start working on these grants, we're going to create our own document. You know, pro tip number 2, do not work on their system. Never work on their system. Always have a document, a Google Doc, that is only for you, for your own work, right? And basically, the easiest way to explain what we're about to do is we're going to scan this document right now, and we're going to create a document called a pulling of the grant, or the pulling the grant. Now, this handout, we're going to send it to you. This handout has tips and ideas that I'm basically going to break down for you right now as we are together. You know, open the grant application, close other windows, because this will allow spaciousness for focus, I'm sorry. Find the key language, phrases, words, and add to your Juicebox. I'll go into detail about the Juicebox in a minute. If you're applying for organizational grants and are a nonprofit, you can partner with an organization that acts as your fiscal sponsor. Okay, a lot of these grants will require a fiscal sponsor or a 501c3 status. Do not feel that if you don't have this, you cannot apply. There are always ways to apply. And the most important thing, I think, is we will always look for the loopholes, las lagunas en el lenguaje, right? We will always look for ways in which we can still put our application or grant application on the table. I think I had a couple of, yes. Before we start, a couple of questions for reflection. What experience do you have in writing grants? Has anyone here received a grant before? And what feelings and reactions do you have when thinking or talking about grant seeking? Regardless of your previous experience, we are going to, you know, develop our own practice. We're going to dismantle our structures of knowing in regards to, no, you know what, applying for a grant is really difficult. It has a lot of work. We don't, you know, all of those things are true and are real. And at the same time, we're here because we're willing to dismantle those ideas, and we're willing to have a different experience in applying for grants. We're going to have an experience of clarity, focus, ease, and grace. Again, we are going to have an experience of clarity, focus, ease, and grace. Okay, couple of the tips that I was telling you. You can look for a fiscal sponsor. Some grants might require you to define a problem and a solution. Create answers to common questions that you can utilize repeatedly, right? Again, I'm going to say it one more time. We are going to be doing this for our project so that we can continue to apply for many grants, regardless of the question, right? We're just going to take the content that we have, and then we're going to look at the questions. Oh, this is asking me for my professional impact. Let me reframe the ideas that I already wrote to answer this question to the best of my ability, right? Most proposals provide a word character count that you cannot go over when answering questions. We will look at this specifically. Use plain language, simple language, but be specific with details. Everyone that you are going to list in your application should give you their permission before you submit. But before you submit, yes. But as you're putting together your application, it's okay to throw names in there, right? When we get to that part, I have a couple of tips for you. And build a realistic budget. So to contextualize, as I was telling you, when you're applying for a grant, you're sending your application. This is an application, just a blank piece of paper, but this is simulating your application, and this is someone else's application, right? So when your grant panel is looking at these two applications, they're going to be reading at them. They're going to be like, okay, so Arturo is telling me that he can do, he can, with his project, if we give him funding, he can reach out 1,000 people. But Tabitha right here is telling me that if we give her funding, she's going to reach out 10,000 people. Oh, wow. When we're looking at these two grants application, well, Tabitha's application seems, more interesting. 10,000 compared to 1,000, that's a big deal. However, can Tabitha deliver on 10,000 people, right? So basically what we are going to be doing as we write our application is we are building a case that we have clear goals and that we are competent in doing those things. And the last and most important part of it is that the project that we are presenting to them is so urgent that they need to fund it today. Yeah, like right now, not tomorrow, not next year, not in 6 months, now. Okay. So part of your homework this week is going to be to read these complete guidelines. We do not have time, of course, unfortunately, to read these guidelines together here. But important things that you wanna include: application deadline. Okay. Now, all of these things that we're going to be noting and highlighting here, we're going to be pulling them from this document into this other document right here. This is how this is going to look like. So the first thing that you want to put is, and this is an example, of course, this is the title of the grant: SFAC San Francisco Artist Grant, the grant application guidelines. So I invite you to come. Oh, and I'm gonna share this in the chat in case that you're interested in being present as I do this. But I'm gonna try to be very visual here. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and we can answer these questions. So we're going to copy and paste the link here. So every time that we want to look back at the guidelines, instead of going to the website and looking and looking and looking and looking, we just come here, boom, apa. There you go. You just come here and open it. Very easy, very simple. Next thing that you want to include: important dates. Deadline is king, okay? Do not, this is gold. This is like golden nug for you. Do not, trust, be overconfident in your ability to finish things on time. If you have a deadline for, November 10 at noon, make sure that you're submitting on November 8, on November 9, never the day off, because you will, the system can be a little, stiff or can fail. You never know what's going to happen. So if you want to have clarity, focus, ease, and grace, make sure that you're submitting before. Okay. Now, the next thing that we're going to be doing is in the Juicebox, we're going to be looking for language. That is important. See, in here we have even a box of important dates. You can, if you want, you can straight up just copy all of this and paste it here. We're not going to do that right now just because these are so very many dates, and I'm trying to keep it light for you so that you can, you know, see it with ease. You know, these are some of the important things. San Francisco Artist Grants funds artist works in all genres. This is important. All genres. Funds arts in all genres. You know, and this orange box, that is what we are calling the juice box. You know, it's like orange juice, little OJ. So in here we're going to just keep the pointers, keep the important stuff that is popping out in our eyes, right? Creation, you know, creation of work and any related public benefit must take place between July 1st and December 31st. Oh, you know, I have a project, but I have been doing it for the last 2 years, and it actually is going to start on June of 22. Actually, that is not going to be part, you know, that is not going to be funded by this grant. You know, in order for you to get funding, your project should start on July 1st and end before December 31st of 2023. These are all the important things that you need to consider as you are reading these grants. New this year, grant review panelists will be curated based on artistic project, genre, artistic experience. You know, some of these might be important for you, some of these will not. Racial equity statement, we're gonna skip this because we're going to go really deep on this next week. But in here, maximum grant request amount is up to $20,000, right? Grant request amount is $20,000. Boom, another thing here. Then again, we're just going to go through all of these project requirements, new work, public benefit, all of these things. We're going to be extracting all of these nuggets of gold from this. The applicant must be at least 18 years old. And again, I'm not stopping here, but part of your homework is going to be to read this completely and to create your own pool, you know, your own juice box. Again, we're giving you this and we're trying to spend more time here with you because this is the base of applying for any grant. I know that for some of you who have already applied, this might be, you know, evident, but for those of you who have not applied for a grant before, this is the key to start a strong application. You really want to have, you know, the important things here. You don't have to overpopulate it, but you really want to have, you know, things that will give you a clear sense of direction. Utilizing language, right? In some instances, they will say, you know, we are seeking to empower the artistic practice of the artist, right? Empower the artistic practice of the artist. So what does this mean? It means that when you're developing your ideas in your grant, you're gonna literally copy this phrase, boom, and you're going to paste it in, you know, in your answer. This grant will empower my artistic practice as an artist. You see what I just did there? I am speaking to them in their language. You know, I'm not making it difficult, cryptic. I'm not giving a lot of like, you know, these will be uplifting and encouraging because that. Just utilize what their own words, you know, because this is the language that they are putting forward. This is the language that they understand plain and simple, right? A good example of this, and I'm gonna start to wrap up because I know that we're close to be on time. A good example of this is when you're applying for a job. Generally speaking, you will send your resume, right? Well, the new the human resources people have these new tools where, you know, if in the job application they're listing this word, say proactive, they're listing the word proactive. They don't read all of your resume. When you send your resume, they don't read all of your resume. They just put this through a filter. How many times are they saying the word proactive in their application, right? So that they don't take all the time to just read. They just go and, oh, this person has the word proactive 10 times. Let me take a look at this application. Simple, right? So Tabitha, just to be more specific, because we are using their language, they are not hoping that they will decipher our, you know, narrative. We're putting it right there in front of their eyes. And again, if they're naming, you know, this grant seeks to empower the artistic practice of artists, in your narrative very easily, this grant will empower my artistic practice as an artist by, and then you can explain, right? But in the very beginning, you're meeting them where they are at. Is this clear? This clear?
Yeah, it's clear. It's just the part where you said they take our information, they put it in a reader and then pick out keywords. That would,
yeah, it's like if you have a full
happening?
document, here, you know, I can just say equity. Oh, I have equity here. One, you know, you can see it here. They are naming equity 11 times in this document.
Okay.
So if equity is an important term for them, they can just look at it and be like, oh, this person is talking a lot about equity. Let me, you know, give it a little more time. Let me give it a little more, you know, focus. And then we get to the second part of pulling the grant. We get to the question part of pulling the grant. I came here directly because you can see application questions. Highlight your personal experience with one or more of the racial equity communities identified in this document, right? Boom. So this is going to be one of the questions. Boom. Highlight your personal experience, but not only that, because they are telling you as well, you have a 500-word limit. So you want to also copy this and paste it right here. Why? Because the system is not going to let you put one more word over 500, right? And my personal choice is I always write the question and I put a little box in here, just because it allows me to kind of like, this is the space for my question. It helps me. This is a system that we develop. It doesn't mean that you have to specifically do it like this, but we have seen great results doing it like this. Some artists create one specific document for each question. That's another opportunity. That's another way. You know, you can develop your own way to do it so that it gives you the space that you need. Okay. So we go to the next question, which is, You know, tell us about your experience relevant to your proposed project. Boom, copy. We got it right here. Tell us about your own experience relevant to this project. Now, I continue to do this. We have a 250 word limit, correct? 250 word limit is right here. Perfect. Yes, I know. I'm give me just 30 more seconds. We're wrapping up. So you are going to be doing this for all of these questions, right? This is not going to be part of your homework. Your homework is going to be just to create the juice box up here, the juice box. Okay, but this is a big part of what it is to pulling a grant. Now, this is going to be your homework for this week. Next week, we're going to give you the framework of Arts Collab, the framework that we have created, including all of these questions already, so that we can start answering those questions in real life. Thank you so much for your patience and for staying. I want to just raise a question. Would it be okay if we go 10 minutes past the hour? I took a long time in pulling the grants, but I think it was important for you to look at this with ease and calm. Yeah, if you have to leave, all is well. You can come back and look at the recording. But at this time, we're going to be passing the baton to Therese to wrap our session up. Correct, Therese?
Yeah, and to go over, I just want to get some clarification before we hit the slide. Is it read the guidelines and check out the grant template, or is it, can you just take a look at the last slide and just type in how you want them to proceed with the guidelines and filling the juice box, I think.
Beautiful. Yes, I can do that right now.
Okay, so another part of the homework is going to be to start working on your project summary. And Arturo, if you don't mind just advancing to the slide for project summaries.
Give me just a second. Yes.
Thank you. I know I've asked you to do 6 hand thing. I acknowledge I'm asking you to grow 6 hands.
There you go. Can you see it?
Yeah. So this may seem like a lot, but it's really a reference. So don't feel like you need to memorize all of this. It's just going to be a super, super useful tool in your grant writing journey. So if you're doing a collaboration when you're working on your summary, these are the pieces that you're going to want to cover. If you're doing a community space creation, these are the questions that you would cover. So there's like bullet points: what the funds will be supported, project description, who's the benefiting community. If you're doing a community event with engagement, what the funds will support, project description, the planning and the curating project or event. And when you land on what your project's going to be, Arturo and I are going to be totally down with helping you identify which one of these structures you should use for creating your project summary. We also are going to give you an amazing document of many to come, of our handouts, of things to cover in your project summary. So in the document that we hand out, we give you an example of a project community collaboration, a community event, and a community event with engagements. So all of those things that you have the project summary pointers for, we're supporting you by giving you a project kind of summary worksheet that will help you out with completing it. So we start out with like the projects. Arturo, is there any way you could share the projects summary handout that I'm talking about right now in the chat? Not that one, but it's in the syllabus.
No, I think I got you. Looking for it.
Yeah, I have it in.
But do go on. Do go on. I'll share it in a second.
Okay. Anyway, so the document that you're going to be getting is the things to cover in your project and summary, and it's great because if you can articulate what your project is, you can complete your summary, and we set you up in being able to do that with clarity, focus, ease, and grace because we give you prompts. So let's say you're doing a community event. We give you a prompt like these funds will be used to create a day program for day laborers to be able to do pottery. My project will provide free lunch and resources to housing resources, food resources, clothing resources, mental health resources. Due to the lack of services that are already provided like this, this will include, access to an art studio and access to resources that are not normally provided in ceramic studios throughout San Francisco. The work created by the artist and the people that attend the artist and the outcomes will be shared with various communities, and we will have a public facing event during the first week of July of 2023. And we will create a brochure and copies will be donated, or the art that we create will be donated to community. And so when you are filling out these different types of forms, there'll be prompts. So when we give you the things to cover in your project description and summary document, we give you 3 different samples. We give you one sample for a project, community collaborations. We give you one for community events, and then we give you one for community events with engagement. Arturo, can you bring up that doc? It's in the syllabus.
Yeah.
That's in the planning.
Okay, so I have this link.
Okay, y'all. So this is going to be a game changer for you because you don't have to think about, okay, well, where do I start and where do I end? Boom. We give you, with clarity, focus, ease, and grace, a very, very usable, clear template to use for starting your sentences and making sure that you cover the things that they're going to want to know about your project. If it's a community collaboration, if it's an event, or if it's a community event with engagement. So take a look at the different samples that we give you of projects. These are actual artists that will be giving you examples of, and they use these formats to create their templates for what their project summaries. So during your coaching sessions, you can definitely ask questions about, how to decide if you're going to do a group thing or if you're going to do, a public facing event. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing in a nutshell with the homework as far as the project summaries go. And as you're having your coaching sessions between now and the next session, you can just work with your coach and see how clear you are on your project summary. And we're going to support you in getting more clarity around that project. And so at this time, I would just like to take these last few minutes to see if you have any questions about any of the materials that I covered or anything that we've covered today, or any questions in general.
Or just comments about the session today. How do you feel? Thank you, Victoria. Gracias. Anyone? Just an idea or two?
That's great.
I feel motivated. I just got a text from my friend and we're gonna start writing this afternoon. So
Lovely,
thank you.
lovely.
Thank you.
I feel like I got work to do right now. I'm about to get into it.
So I would encourage y'all to look, see, and tell the truth about your schedule this week, and just create an hour to start working on your grant, and an hour to work on just researching who's doing what you're doing, or who are you inspired by, and just look at how they talk about their work. So please be well and have an amazing week of abundance, and congratulations on clearing a little bit of fog. Congratulations on being present and supporting your fellow artists. Congratulations to the artists that presented for being the folks to break the seal, and Arturo for having 6 arms. I really appreciate it, and holding it down because I'm doing all this through my phone. And just really want to thank all of you. We really appreciate you, and we know that you all have all your own answers, and you have your goals and dreams, and a big desire to make a difference. And we're here for it.
We're so here for it. And before I let you go, I have a special gift for you guys. I am going to share with you the link to Madrecita, which is the video that we released yesterday. I hope that you like it. Send me your comments, your ideas. For everybody that is in San Francisco, we will have another concert on July 30th. It's a free concert. It's outdoors. It's at Radio Havana. So if you're around, please come by. Put it in your calendar and come by. And yeah, I think that's it, right?
Yep.
We did it! Woo!
Arturo, you want to take us out with some music? You want to take us out with some music?
Yes.
Bye, all.
See.